What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today we're talking goalkeepers. This is a position in our squads that we don't talk about too much. It's usually defenders, midfielders and forwards, but I wanted to make a video on this, look through both the value and the premium options, some things to consider, then who I think might be the best goalkeeper for game week 1 squads for each price point from 4.5 right up to 6 million. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll jump straight into it just after a quick message about our sponsors for this video. Really pleased to say this video has been sponsored by fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, one of the best fantasy football sites out there. I've been using it for years. If you want to check it out, click the link in the description below. Their members area offers tons of content. You've got fixture tickers, player comparison tools. You can create custom tables to check out player stats. You've got a rate my team function and loads more. So if you want to check it out, and I highly recommend you do, you won't regret it. The link is in the description below. So first of all, I wanted to take a look at last season, what points these goalkeepers scored, as well as their points per million. So that's the points per pound sign that I've got on screen. And that is basically their points from last year divided by what their current price is. Obviously, some players have gone up in price and some have stayed the same, like Matt Ryan. So I've chosen kind of the ones that are probably being talked about the most, right down to Ryan at 4.5, Fabianski at 5, then Lloris, Ederson, Alisson, maybe a little bit more premium. So the one thing that stands out is Alisson was the highest point scorer last year for goalkeepers, and his points per million is the highest as well out of the 5 that I've checked, which is really impressive. The interesting thing is that Ederson, not too far behind him, was 28.1 points per million. But Fabianski actually beat him for 5 million. Ryan was a little bit far away, and then Lloris wasn't too far away either, and he's 5.5 million. So the thing I like about this is it just shows that premium goalkeepers, yes, they get a lot of clean sheets because they're in the top teams. Man City and Liverpool obviously going to probably keep maybe as many clean sheets, probably not anymore. I think they were both around the 20 mark. And even if they shave off a few of those, you're still going to get a lot of points. But when it comes to points per million, i.e. value, the likes of Lloris isn't far behind for less money. Fabianski isn't far behind. In some cases versus Ederson, he's actually higher. So that would point towards maybe going for a lower price goalkeeper. Now at the start of the season, when you're not maybe sure who that lower price goalkeeper is that's going to do really well for the season, you might want to start with a premium. There's other things to consider about that, which we're going to talk about now. So anyone who's watched my videos before will know that I'm a big fan of kind of the 4.5 and maybe 5 million price points. I don't usually like to spend too much more on goalkeepers. So there's a few reasons why. Save points is one of them. A more expensive goalkeeper, yes, they get a lot of points from clean sheets, but they don't tend to save as many shots because their teams aren't conceding as many shots, i.e. they can't get as many points. So if they get a clean sheet, they might get a bonus point potentially, especially if they've saved a penalty, but the chances are they're just going to finish on 6 points because they won't hit 3 saves, so they won't get the extra point. Whereas a 4.5 million keeper, a 5 million keeper, they play for worse teams, those teams concede more chances, and therefore there's more opportunity to get shots. So those goalkeepers top up their points that way. Another thing to consider is defender coverage. So does the team that you're looking at buying the goalkeeper from have a defender that's a better option? So to give you an example, Alisson is 6 million, but it's very hard to look past Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson and Van Dijk, who are, yes, they're a little bit more money, but they're not only going to get you clean sheets, but potentially attacking returns as well. And then the likes of Ederson maybe, same price as Alisson. It's a little bit harder to call the Man City defence. You've got Laporte, but he's 0.5 million more expensive. Maybe Zinchenko, but how long is he going to start for? So if you're looking at a premium keeper, I think, for example, I prefer Ederson over Alisson. Whereas maybe if you've got Ryan at Brighton, you're probably not looking at their defenders too much. Fabianski, you could be looking at maybe Diop, Balbuena, but I think for 5 million, Fabianski might represent more value. So you've got to look at whether there's a defender from the same team you want to go for. And of course, you could double up, but take that into consideration if you only want one player. Lack of hauls, obviously, it is very difficult for a goalkeeper to get a big score. Defenders can get assists and goals, midfielders and strikers, same thing. Whereas goalkeepers, you're really looking at save points. It's the cheaper goalkeepers that would usually do that. Yes, a penalty save would be amazing. As soon as they get a penalty save, they're pretty much nailed on for 3 points, but it's not very likely to happen. Most penalties are converted. There's usually about a maybe 70 to 75% conversion rate for penalties over the whole league, so you wouldn't expect goalkeepers to get too many points, and they certainly cannot be relied upon. The only thing I will say as well, we're going to talk about 4.5 million keepers a bit more in a minute. I do think they're quite hard to call this year. I'm looking at the Burnley defence, but we're not quite sure exactly who's number 1 right now. And the other 4.5s are not really standout options. We've had like the likes of Fabianski and Foster in previous seasons who were just the go-to easily. But now they're 5 million, it's a little bit more of an ask to go for them. Do you want to pay that extra 0.5 million? So I will say it's quite tough to call at the moment, but maybe that's a good reason to start with a premium. Let's take a look at each keeper I would buy for each price point. So 6, 5.5, 5 and 4.5 million. I think for 6 million, if I was going to start the season with a premium keeper, it would probably be Ederson over Alisson, basically for the reasons I've given already. I think Liverpool are probably the best team when it comes to FPL points because they don't change things around too often. You know that Robertson and Van Dijk are going to start most games, probably Trent Alexander too. So that means I don't want Alisson, or I don't have, it's not that I don't want him, I just don't have space to have Alisson in my team as well. Whereas for Man City, I'm maybe not looking to triple up. Laporte is 0.5 million more expensive. And Zinchenko, yes, I will go for him if he looks to be nailed. But if there's any uncertainty between him and Mendy, it'll be difficult to judge which one's going to start. So Ederson could be the way into the Man City defence if you want to cover their defence. Pretty good start to the season. West Ham and Bournemouth I've put as green, but obviously they are away games, which could be tricky. And then the Spurs game, any top 6 game could be tight. It's really hard to call. So I think they've got potential for 2, maybe 3 clean sheets in the opening 4 fixtures. I think as a general rule, they got 20 clean sheets last year. That will probably be very similar this year. But as I pointed out, save points only 58 saves that he made. That was, I think, the lowest out of all goalkeepers that kind of played regularly. So just goes to show it's very difficult for him to get points that way. And you're really relying on maybe getting a bonus point from a few saves, maybe a few passes and things like that, because obviously they do play it out from the back a lot. But generally, he's going to get a clean sheet. He's going to get 6 points, and that's it. So if Zinchenko's going to start for 0.5 million less, and he's only getting clean sheets, I'd rather save the money and go for him. But for 6 million, I think he's probably the best choice to start the season. If I'm completely honest, and I do like to be, I barely even considered Lloris or 5.5 million goalkeepers before I made this video. And it's one thing I like about making videos, is to do the research, and it actually opens my eyes to things I wouldn't usually consider. So for 5.5 million, you get a Spurs defender or defensive coverage. And the interesting thing for me is he only got 12 clean sheets last year, which is 8 less than Ederson got, but his points per match was the same, 4.4. And the reason for that is the save total. His saves were nearly double what Ederson got, and if he played the full season, obviously he only played 2,970 minutes, as you can see on screen, his total points would have been much closer to Ederson's and Alisson's. So I like the look of that. You get into Spurs' defence, which I think has improved with Ndombele coming to the team. I think that's going to help their defensive returns. If you look at defenders you could get, they're kind of the same price. Vertonghen and Alderweireld. There's potential for a 5 million right back if they don't sign anyone else, because Trippier is gone now, so the likes of Aurier, or maybe even Foyt has been touted as maybe playing there. We'll have to wait and see on that, but he's suspended for the first 2 games of the season. So potential to get in for 5 million, but we know that the fullbacks tend to get rotated, and it's tricky. So if I'm paying for Lloris, or Vertonghen and Alderweireld, and bearing in mind there are other defenders I want Trent, I want Van Dijk, I probably want Zinchenko, I might want a Man United defender, maybe Luka Dean, lots and lots of options, and I probably don't want to double on Spurs defence. So if you do want to get coverage, I think Lloris could be a really good option. Same points per match as Ederson. 2 really nice home fixtures in the opening 4, Villa and Newcastle. Obviously 2 tricky fixtures in Man City away and Arsenal away, but there is always the opportunity for a top 6 game to be tight with neither side wanting to give away points. So I think Lloris is a great shout for 5.5 million if that's the kind of price you want to spend on your keeper, and I think there's a chance for points per match wise, at least for if he's fully fit the whole season, that he could get very close to Alisson and Ederson this year. Arguably for 5 million, I could have put Foster in here as well. He's been a very reliable 4.5 million goalkeeper, and Watford's fixtures are a better opening. So it does depend whether you want to just get someone in for kind of the first 3 or 4 fixtures, then you get a wild card, or if you want someone for a bit longer term. Now the thing I like Fabianski is he's always up there for save points. I've spoken about in other videos that West Ham's expected goals conceded, I think, was the 3rd worst for all teams last year, which is pretty awful. I do think there's room for improvement if they can get a settled back 4 that can stay fit. And with Fabianski doing as many saves as he possibly can, 151 last year, which is ridiculous. That's almost 100 more than Ederson. Now his points per match was only 3.8. Which is less than Ederson and Lloris, but obviously he is 0.5 million cheaper. So if you want to spend that 5 million price point, Fabianski could be a good one to go for. He's always going to play when he's fit. There's absolutely no worries about that, like for all keepers, to be fair. So Man City at home is obviously a tough one to open up with. Wouldn't expect too much there, but hopefully he can get some saves. And that's the kind of thing with these cheaper keepers is, let's say he only gets 1 or 2 points from appearance points because he concedes. If he then gets two save points as well, that's already up to 4. You're already getting close to a clean sheet potential already, and that's with them having conceded. Obviously, if they get battered 5, 6, 7-0, then it's not quite as good because you start getting negative points. So Man City at home is a tricky fixture. Brighton away I've marked as yellow or orange, same as Watford, but there's potential for save points and maybe a clean sheet in one of those two. And then Norwich at home, I'd hope for some points in that one. So I don't think the opening fixtures are awful, possibly could be better, and I do think Foster is an option at 5 million. But I really like Fabianski, saves for days every single season. So the 4.5 million options, like I've already kind of alluded to, they are tricky to call this year. I think FPL have done that on purpose because usually the likes of Fabianski and Foster, we would just go straight for them at 4.5. So they've put them up at 5, so we have to make a decision on some less options, basically. There's less options at 4.5 this year than there was last year, or any previous season that I've played FPL. Now, I've picked out Ryan, although I do think one of the Burnley goalkeepers, once we know which one's going to be the number 1 for the season, could be the best bet for a long run. When it comes to good opening fixtures, I think Watford away is a decent enough one for save points, and then West Ham and Southampton at home. So kind of opening 4 fixtures, Ryan's pretty much up there as one of the best. Maybe you could go for a Bournemouth goalkeeper once we know which one's the number 1 there. Sheffield United and Villa to open up with, and they did get 10 clean sheets last year. But I've gone for Ryan for my 4.5. I think the good thing about him as well is you can get Button as your backup keeper, which a lot of people are doing anyway. Of course, if Ryan gets injured, you've already got the backup goalkeeper there ready to go, so no need to make a transfer. Now, that is a pretty niche scenario that out of all the goalkeepers in the game, Ryan's the one that gets injured, and then you get Button in. But it has happened before. He didn't play all the minutes last season. I had Button as my backup keeper, so not the worst. 98 saves, nowhere near as many as Fabianski, close to Ederson, which actually isn't too good considering he's in a team that would concede a lot of chances, and only 6 clean sheets last year. Now, I think Brighton can improve on that. I think 6 is quite low. I think they're a better team than that. Although, from what I've read, the manager is not that renowned for defensive performances and more for attacking. But of course, if a team's more attacking, they can hold the ball up and they're causing the opposition problems. That does mean they're potentially suffering less attacks from the other team. So maybe that will help. I think right now the 4.5 is looking a bit tricky to call, like I've already said. But Ryan looks good, I think, fixtures-wise. And Burnley goalkeepers definitely for the season. If it's Nick Pope, he's absolutely smashed it before. And I think Burnley will definitely improve on their clean sheets from 8 last season. So I'm picking Ryan, but definitely keep an eye out for the Burnley goalkeepers. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching, as always. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. That's always appreciated. Really helps the channel out. Obviously, subscribe if you're new around here and hit the bell so you're notified when all my future videos go live, as well as the live streams. There will be a live stream coming up this week. It will be on Wednesday around 9 o'clock, so make sure you tune into that. I'll be answering all your questions as normal. Leave a comment below. Which goalkeeper are you starting the season with? Are you starting with a premium then switching to a cheap one, or vice versa maybe? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers all.